This is the year that Fink beats this.
Welcome to Fink Beats the Stomach, our bi-weekly take on the world of competitive eating. I am Mike Sullivan.
And I'm James Splendori.
Episode number 96.
I'm done with the number bits.
I thought about this beforehand.
They're never good.
There's a CKY song that's something to the effect of 96 Bitter Bastards or like something like that. It was
I don't
like
like
their one
to use that
hit.
type of language.
Yeah, neither do we at Fink Beats the Stomach.
Fink Beats the Stomach is a PG program.
But that's all I got for 96. I feel like we're just waiting for 99 to have the Gretzky episode.
Oh, so we need to order some more Gretzky
We
booze.
just get more of
Okay,
that.
note to self. Siri.
So, James, how are you, man?
Great, man. Good to be back. Feels like it's been a while because we actually banked an episode for the first time in a while.
Right. So the Ronnie episode we recorded the week before we launched it. So it actually has been longer than the fans might feel that it has.
But it feels good. I've been getting a ton of great feedback
Yes.
on the show. So big shouts up front. Get to do it this time to one James Brucato. Been hitting me up about the show. Regular listener. To both Max and Cooper Cords, regular listeners.
Of course.
Both crushing it at the beginning of the school year, but still finding time to listen to Fink Beats the Stomach. So thanks to you guys, and obviously Rachel's still listening.
My mom's still out there, hopefully.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sullivan. So thanks for the feedback. Thanks for telling us you're listening. Thanks to everybody who's still rolling with us and talking to us on social media. And it's been feeling good.
It
show's
has been
feeling
feeling
great.
good. And, I definitely echoing that. We've been getting a lot of good feedback on the most recent episode. So we decided, let's do it again.
Yeah, let's run it back.
Clearly, we're not the interesting part of Fink Beats the Stomach.
Never were.
There's so many interesting and amazing people out there in the world of competitive eating. And we keep it going. We had Leslie, we had Ronnie, and now we have this competitive eater, a man who we have really been dropping the ball on.
I mean, we've been sleeping on it like it wasn't anyone's business.
I'm embarrassed, to be honest with you, at how long it has gone.
I'm not gonna go that far.
Since we had, I am personally, how long it's been before we've had him on the show. He is, of course, a 20. I always have to think about the fourth Finky winner.
100%. And the first Finky dresser. That was like $1.5 million.
And of course, he's the 12th ranked competitive eater in the world. He's from
According to
Pocono,
Major League
according to Major
Eating.
League Eating, from Pocono Pines, PA. The great, the wonderful George Chiger. George, welcome finally to Fink Beats the Stomach.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Such an absolute pleasure. George, obviously we have so much we could talk to you about. But just to start you off, to get you into the Fink groove, how you been? What's going on with you these days?
The same old, man. I'm trying to eat and travel and enjoy life. It's been a kind of crazy summer with all the different competitions, and we just recently had Porkroll last weekend, so that was a great time, catching up, seeing all the eaters, and
Well, he's
just eating.
He's a pro because you had the first segue of the show. We absolutely want to talk about Porkroll, but Lord knows I will not do it justice. So, Mike, what does George Chiger refer to when he says we had Porkroll this weekend?
It's, of course, which I can't believe the length of this name. I'm going to have to look at my notes here. Riverfest, featuring the Trenton Thunder world-famous Cases Porkroll Eating Championship.
Too long.
It is a long name, but it is a great contest, and we know firsthand, because James, you and I have been in attendance. We took the long train ride down to Trenton a few years back.
Just to Kate,
yeah,
just to the band.
Yeah. Well, this year, hold on, we'll get into that. But so it's becoming a long-standing contest. I believe this is the 5th year that they've had it, off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yes.
So there you go. Thank you, George. 5th
And
year.
he does fact checks.
And as George mentioned, it was a star-studded event. A lot of Fink favorites in attendance. Stacked roster for the first time. Maybe not the first time, but a rare occasion where the entire ranking, 1 through 13, is basically someone who we know and love.
That's true.
No randos, no people no Johnny Moes off the street. All professional competitive
And
eaters
not
in
even a
attendance.
representative from the Trenton Thunder, which I'm surprised at.
Yes, they usually throw one of those.
Which,
in there, but-
George, I guess we can ask you about that. No one came from the PR department or anything?
Not at all, man. Like, it was a stacked MLE event. There was no walk-ons. There was no, like you said, celebrity show-ups, from the team or
Right.
whatever. It was all ranked eaters all the way through. A lot of A lot of the girls that you would see out at Coney Island eating that were there. So there were some rookies out there eating. Jules and Prudence isn't a rookie. She's a local favorite. She was out there eating. So, and then my favorite, my mentor, Laurel, she was out. So it was a stacked field, and Dud Light made it out. Like I haven't seen him anywhere
A rare
recently.
Dud Light sighting.
Yeah.
So and then
No, go ahead, George. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just kind of going through the field. We had Jeff and Joey there. That was like the big top battle. And then Darren Eats. Darren was there, and then you saw Mickey. Mickey's been killing it this year. She's been out there eating. Hitting a lot of contests this year. I feel more than average, or at least she's been
everywhere.
Yeah, she's been everywhere, and then she's really been finishing, in the top 3 or 4 overall too. Like she really just, stepped up her. Not that she doesn't have a game because she kills it with hot dogs, but we all know Mickey. There's days that she doesn't downshift, but it seems like she's been stepping on the gas and downshifting this year quite a bit. So
and also
I'm glad to see that
diversifying
from
the
her.
portfolio there. It seems like there's some contests that we haven't seen her at before, where she's coming this year. But if I could, because we're getting excited and we're getting ourselves rolling.
Clearly, there's a lot to talk about.
Clearly, there's a lot to talk about. But for the folks out there not from the greater New Jersey area, let's talk about the food and how it's prepared, because this is something that's interesting to me, given that I've still never had the delicacy.
Seriously?
Seriously, I've never had the opportunity.
All right, George.
Well, that's not true, but I've never taken the opportunity.
You've never taken
the opportunity.
But
so tell us what. First of all, tell us what Porkroll is, and 2, tell us how it's prepared for this contest, because I believe this is not necessarily its most traditional form.
No, I would say Porkroll overall is maybe it's almost in between of like a salami and a pepperoni, kind of like a little heavier than a bologna, and I would think it's more of a breakfast meat, served in Jersey. Overall, it's usually grilled pretty good. They if you know how to cook it, you put 3 slices, like you cut you slice the pork roll kind of thin, and then you put little slices in a circle, so it doesn't, when you grill it, so it doesn't bubble up, so it stays flat.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yes, that's why if you look at pictures, it's like sliced, so it doesn't, so it lays flat. And if you don't know what you're cooking, they'll tell you, because it's going to bubble up and won't sit flat on your sandwich. But overall, I think it's a great breakfast meat with, sausage, egg, well, not sausage, egg, and cheese, but pork roll, egg, and cheese.
Right.
It's always a go-to when I'm in Jersey. And a fun fact, I guess South Jersey calls it pork roll, and North Jersey calls it Taylor ham. But I think Taylor ham's a brand name over like Case's Pork Roll, which was a great sponsor to us this past weekend, and really just put on a great event for us to be there with the Trenton Thunders. Oh, there you go. Yeah,
To
those
see
are
the
the
slices,
slices I'm talking about. Yeah.
Interesting. So Taylor ham is like Q-tip, when pork roll is like your cotton swab.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say yes. I'm not from Jersey. I just consume a lot of their foods. So
You pop over state lines real quick. You're harboring
definitely.
meats coming in from Jersey back to PA.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
It's something I feel like I've failed, not only as a former temporary Jersey resident, but also as a competitive eating journalist, that I don't know the backstory behind pork roll versus Taylor ham, and why there really is this physical, geographical divide between the two.
A very special episode. We'll do an investigative report.
We'll bring like Renee Rovtar. Carmen will come back to talk about it.
Carmen Cincati?
Oh,
Carmen Cincati, former
That'd be
champion.
awesome,
former
yeah.
Pork
Let
Roll
me get that
champion.
note down.
He's very busy.
I want to say it's like a north-south kind of thing, like location.
Yeah, and
But
I feel like you just said this, George. I was too busy looking up the photo, but is the consensus we feel the north is Taylor ham, the south is pork roll?
I want to say yes. I could be
I'm not
completely
sure.
wrong
That's what
on
I
that,
think
but
too, but I'm not sure.
I wonder what
I get a lot of.
I wonder what the Mason-Dixon line of this conversation is.
Where
does that really cut off?
Ooh. It could be like Newark in there, like what would it be 72 278 or something. What was it? No, 287.
I love
Maybe I'm thinking in there.
the local highway knowledge. It's unbelievable with George.
Yeah.
It's like what exit on the Garden State is the cutoff.
Although,
I'm not that local.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe that's how they do it. I don't know.
It could be. They do. You talk to Jersey people. It's like what exit on the Garden State. So you spent some time there, Mike. So obviously, you picked up something.
What exit were you on the Garden State?
So my apartment was more on the Turnpike.
Oh, you were a Turnpike kid?
But
Jesus
if
Christ.
I wanted to get over to the Garden State, it was basically, I feel like I would take the Turnpike, switch over, it'd be like 130, and then my office that I went to in Clark was 135.
135 exits?
Yeah, it's every mile is basically, that's what it
Christ.
means. And then going south, it goes down, and I feel like Kristen, our friend Kristen Waltzer, was all the way down. She was in like Manasquan, which is like double digits, so like it went all, but
Wild.
anyway, Jersey, who knew?
Right.
But yeah, George, so pork roll slices on basically it was like a potato roll or just like a
hamburger bun, a basic hamburger bun. It could have been a McDonald's cheeseburger bun.
Right.
Just a basic bun.
Dressed in any way or just meat bun?
No, just meat and bun. So it's very, and the meat itself is very salty. It has, the grease, and it's, the way it's prepared, it's just grilled flat top, and it looks just pretty much like the photo you shown, but then it's on a hamburger bun. So each one, slice of meat and the bun itself was a quarter pound.
Okay.
So
quarter pound, one single quarter pound piece or multiple?
No, it was between bun and piece.
Got it.
Quarter pound.
So four sandwiches would have been a pound of food.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So then let's get into the results here. So
Start at the top.
Start right at the top. It will not surprise anybody, Mike or George here, that Joseph Jaws Christian Chestnut came all the way from the West Coast despite having no clue what's going on in Jersey and ate 61 and a half cases pork roll sandwiches. That's a new world record. So what's 4 into 60? That's 15 pounds or so of sandwich. Jeff Esper finishing second with 43 and change. What's that? 43 and 3/4, I guess.
Two-thirds.
2/3. Thank you, Mike, with the math. Third, Darren Breeden, as you mentioned. Darren Eats with 38.
Let's stop there for a second.
Okay, great.
Because I feel like some would say it was no surprise, or I wouldn't say it was no surprise that Joey won, but for me, it was a big surprise that Joey won by such a large margin.
100%.
Versus Jeff Esper. We've talked about it on our show before, but this year, last year, we keep seeing these head-to-head matchups between Esper and Joey, not only in a vacuum where it's a race between the two of them about number of wins in the year, but also their head-to-head going against each other. And I believe this would be Joey's 6th win against Esper, but he's lost 5 times. So they've competed together in 11 different contests. George, were you surprised with how high of a number Joey was able to hit in terms of pork roll sandwiches?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I didn't think it would be so great. Jeff set the record last year at 50. I think it was 50 even. And, it's pretty good event. But, I mean, Joey's an animal, and, like, he pushes him, and Jeff's really, they've been going back and forth. And I don't know, I think Joey might have looked at it more as, like, eating the hot dogs, because I want to say he might have separated the pork roll and bun. I separated the pork roll and bun myself and kind of went at it like eating hot dogs. A lot of the eaters kept the pork roll and bun together. I don't know really, what would have been better or not better overall.
Well, I guess it shouldn't be that surprising, given that, absolutely, like you said, this is not that different from Joey eating dogs, given that we're doing bun and meat. But Esper, this is sort of a perfect storm of Joey coming in and doing really well and Esper falling from his record, assuming that 50 was the right number.
Correct. It was, yes. I fact checked that. It was. How similar, George, was it for you? You've eaten, not only on July 4th many times, but you were, someone who was really this qualifying warrior where you were showing up at a lot of different qualifiers, even when you knew a top eater would be there. So you've been in a lot of qualifiers in your day. How does hot dogs and pork roll kind of compare? Since, like you said, it's component-wise, they're pretty similar. But what about eating?
Yeah. Well, I mean, similar to what, it's meat and bun. We're allowed to dunk the bun. So it's a lot of the same technique, eating the meat and then washing it down with the bun. So that was good for me because, I mean, like you said, I'm a veteran of trying to qualify, and I definitely go to more events than I should actually try to attend, knowing that, Jeff's going to be there, Carmen's going to be there. But I just really, in my early, trying to get to the point I'm at today, I wanted table time to just really get the experience of the crowd and eating at the table with, other eaters and, having them push you. And then even every event, something's cooked, and they're not cooked identical. If you go to 3 qualifiers in the summer, all the hot dogs are really pretty much cooked differently. So, with the pork roll, I think it was cooked pretty good. Most of it seemed like really grilled and tasty. And then like as you start moving through, the numbers of it, it seems like maybe towards the end they started like they weren't as grilled as much. So
Next.
yeah, it's like but you get thrown off on it. But just overall consuming the pork roll, it's a lot like you got to make sure you got it chewed and and get it in there, dunk your bun. I heard Mickey coughing at one point. She was next to me and she's like, "Oh, I forgot to dunk my bun," so she ate a dry bun.
Sure.
And it slows you up. It really changes the game. So you got to stay on top of it.
While we're talking, I want to. Well, of course, now the video. I'll back it up a little bit just to show a little bit of the contest.
Which great video. Thank you, Sean Miller Media Group.
Yeah, right.
For the fantastic video on a beautiful Saturday in New Jersey.
Yeah, it looked like a perfect day for this event, for Riverfest, as it were.
It
was crazy. 80-some degrees. It was warm out. It was beautiful, sunny.
And was the cover band out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were out. It was a good time.
It was a Bruce cover band this year. That's why I was super bummed.
Wow.
I mean, really, my wife is a huge Bruce fan, and by proxy, she has bestowed some of that love onto me, but I can't claim my fandom as much as her. But I was really bummed that I didn't see the E Street cover band.
It's Bruce's 70th birthday today, if I remember correctly.
Today is the actual day?
Today, the year of our Lord 2019, September 20.
Kate, are you here? Are you listening? Is today's Bruce's birthday, do you know?
70.
Bang.
Today he is 70.
Yes, it's his birthday.
Give me a jersey.
There you go.
I don't know. License plate. I'm in, baby.
But anyway, one of the things, and you can kind of see it on the video, especially if you watch Joey, there was just a stream of water coming down his arm. It almost looked like as he was eating, like it was like he had a sponge in his hand as it was flowing down.
Which is maybe why Esper wears the armbands.
Now
I'm getting it. It's starting to make sense.
I mean, that it's something.
Yeah.
I am interested, George, to hear from someone like you. You've eaten in a lot of contests. Is the water is having too much water when you dunk the bun? Is that actually a thing, or is it sort of the more the better?
Well, it depends on the food. If it's capacity and technique, I guess over the last year I've done a lot of competitions to learn what I want to do different. My dog's giving me a hard time. What I want to do different for the next year, but with dunking the bun, it's just like hot dogs. I think if you have the capacity, it doesn't really matter. You can really do what you need to. You can dunk and go forward. You don't have to be concerned about your water intake. But there's competitions out there that it's in the back of your head that I shouldn't be consuming so much liquid.
Right.
This wasn't one of them. I don't think so. I mean, at least for me, because I didn't hit my capacity, but I definitely, I would say I maybe got to my flavor fatigue with capacity and kind of slowed me down towards the end.
Right.
But, with Jeff and Joey, those guys, boy, I would hope they would hit their capacity today. I mean,
It's scary.
with the numbers they put up, yeah, definitely. I mean, they put up some big numbers. And, I mean, you think about it, like with me, I know I went through probably a gallon of water with my 21 sandwiches I consumed. So did I consume all that water? No, but a lot of it definitely made it into the system. So I'm sure those guys consume quite a bit also.
Well, George, you mentioned the 21. This is the interesting part to me. That is about as many sandwiches were between Joey and Esper 1 and 2 as there were between Darren and Brian Dudlight Dzinski, who finished below you by 1. So that's 38 for number 3, Darren, 20 for Brian, 21 for our man George Chiger. That's about as many as separated Joey and Esper. So, as always, that next tranche down is like the really interesting piece and what we, as competitive eating journalists, find to be the most interesting part. But also, I think, really speaks to the dominance of Joey in this contest.
Yeah, and why don't you, just to round this out, go 4th through 8th, because I think there's some interesting stories in there too.
Yeah, so Darren Breeden with 38 at number 3, then Nick Wary coming down from the old Garden State's
he's
Jersey.
from Connecticut.
What's Connecticut? What's
Ooh.
right? I know Jersey's
I
the
should
Garden
know
State.
that.
Yeah. Anyway, Kate's in the
I want to say
bathroom.
the first state, but that's Delaware, I think.
No,
I
can't
think
be.
that's on their thing.
So anyway,
Yeah, Delaware is totally the first state. Yeah.
what? Sorry, I'm sorry. I was so dismissive of your answer, Mike. That's embarrassing. I don't know that. 31, Nick Wary coming down from Connecticut, whatever its nickname may be.
Constitution
The
state.
Constitution State. 30 for Mickey Sudo in 5th, coming all the way from the West Coast. Ronnie Hartman, who's been on an episode of Fink Beats the Stomach. Check out episode 94. 94 with 27.5. And then our man George Chiger with 21 in 7th place. And then, as I mentioned, Brian with 20. Then a bunch of favorites all the way down the line. But this
Which,
gets to be
yeah, we'll touch on.
kind of a long list. But
I do find it super interesting, though, that between Nick and Mickey, one sandwich between the two of them, 31 and 30. Between yourself, George, and Dud Light, one sandwich, 21 to 20. Like, how is it that close? Like, what does one sandwich really mean? Is that judging at that point, or is when you get to towards the end of the minute, does every sandwich really count? Like, does really take that much extra effort?
Oh, I think, towards the end, it definitely takes the extra effort to put that extra sandwich in if you're dealing with capacity issues or flavor fatigue issues. There was definitely debris issues from the top of the table down through everybody. You could see that there was debris on the table. I know some people got called on debris, maybe lost a couple sandwiches off their total numbers. But I think as it got down towards, say, myself, Dud Light, and further down the table, it was just kind of really obvious on what sandwiches we consumed and what sandwiches we didn't consume.
Right.
So, each plate had 4 sandwiches on it, and it seemed like our judges really just like, okay, 5 plates, you ate the, one off the 6th plate, so that, 21 sandwiches. So, same thing with Dud Light. He had his 5 plates, and he might have got into his 21st sandwich, but they originally, I think, were going to give him the 21, and then they brought it back to 20 because the sandwich wasn't finished.
Got it.
So.
And I thought it was you were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were next to Dud Light during the contest. Sorry, you were next to Dud Light during the contest, right?
I was. He was on the right side of me, and then Mickey was on the left side of me.
So that, did you know that you were almost sandwich to sandwich between Dud Light? Was he pushing you a little bit?
Unfortunately, I just knew I wanted to eat more than him. I thought I was hoping I had a better lead on him. I try to fall into my rankings where I finished, where I'm ranked overall. It seems like sometimes it really works out well.
Right.
But I've been off a little bit this year on finishing in the money. So I just try to push myself. But like I was saying earlier, flavor fatigue just got to me. I don't even think it was the pork roll overall. It was my flavor changer I had. I think I'm just too used to it, or, I need to switch it up with my dunking, a different flavor changer.
Can you tell the folks at home, the 4 people listening to Fink Beats the Stomach, what your flavor is? Or is that a secret?
No, it's not a secret. It's just I've been using Crystal Light sweetened peach iced tea. Yeah, it's so it's just like a peach flavored mix that I put into my water, and then we had different temperatures in the water too, and I think that has a big play in it too. Like I brought hot water, and unfortunately it was warm water by the time I was eating. And then I actually used the park. They supplied us with water also. So I just had straight up plain water, and I switched to that for a little bit because of I think the tea was bothering me. I've been training with it for 2 years now. I think it's, I need to,
Switch it up.
try something different.
So this is
Switch it up.
I'm going to do a classic tangent of like, you have a very good episode planned, and I'm going to say something ridiculous. Why are there not sponsors for everyone's flavor? Like, how can the Shays or whoever runs Major League Eating from on high, I don't want to call people out by name, it's not a nice thing to do, but why can't whoever runs Major League Eating get a measly stipend for like Crystal Light to be the official flavor of Joseph Josh Chestnut?
It seems like a lot of the eaters do use Crystal Light.
It's so simple. George, how much would you accept from Crystal Light to make it your official?
No, we don't want for negotiation purposes.
Actually, yeah, double it, whatever you're going to answer. Like, doesn't it seem like it's a no-brainer?
Would you be open to such negotiations with Crystal Light?
Oh, I would totally be open to Crystal Light, or a lot of the other eaters do use other liquids.
Well, for now they do.
Stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of options out there too. But I mean, I'm always personally looking for a third party sponsor, and I have a few out there. So, for us to walk on stage with their sponsorships, we can't really do that. But prior and after, and I could be rocking like a really great. I could be drinking my sponsor's beer right now, but I'm not advertising, because they're not paying.
Hell yeah.
And again, for now.
I do.
100%.
I do. Trust me, I want to get into all this in a second.
Yeah, because we've gone already maybe potentially too long.
No.
But
I do want to take a sidestep that's still a little bit of a tangent, but I think an important one, and shame on us because I should have brought it up in the beginning. I take for granted what some of the listeners know and don't know about competitive eating.
Sure.
George, can you explain flavor fatigue in the layman's terms? For us, who's been involved in the sport, it's a very common thing, but can you explain flavor fatigue and also the thought process behind how having a peach flavor helps you with something like Porkroll? Like, it seems like those wouldn't go together anyway.
Okay, so flavor fatigue, we eat a lot of great food. Like 99% of the food that we consume is awesome in our contest if you're consuming a normal amount. Like, say, pork roll, which is, awesome in a sandwich and all that. But now imagine eating 21 of those sandwiches. So it's just, we consume so much of it so quickly, it just becomes very overbearing or bland, or your body's just like, you need something to change up. So when you get flavor fatigue, it's just like, wow, I need something different. So we go to a very sweet or obstinate. I can't. I'm like something different than pork roll or gyozas or whatever. Like, I mean, you need something different. So a lot of the eaters use like fruit punch. Like, I mean, you can see Jeff uses like a red fruit punch or something.
I thought that was blood.
It looks like someone got murdered at the table when he was done.
Knowing Jeff Esper, it could be.
Well, I know Jeff. But you need something different to switch it up. So like a lemonade, or like I'm a huge fan of iced tea. I drink a lot of iced tea, but like the peach flavor gives it a little bit of sweetness. So it takes it from the greasiness or the, whatever I'm dealing with, say with the hot dogs or pork roll. Mike, we were out and we had gyozas. I think I ate, I was into my third or fourth plate of gyozas, which is like 75 to 100. And I'm like, wow, this is really great. But I broke 100 and I'm like, wow, this isn't tasting so good anymore. Right. That was one of the best foods we've ever had. Earlier in the season, I did the Cuban croquettes.
Oh, yeah.
Five of them, very tasty. The next 80, I couldn't really taste them because I was dealing with the flavor fatigue that quickly. So, it's mind over matter. And then if you use a flavor changer, a lot of the eaters use multiple flavors during a competition too. They don't just use one.
Now, what do you actually feel like? Is it like a gag reflex, or like what does the flavor fatigue actually do to your mouth, or to like you again,
your ability to,
if you want to talk about like to layman's terms, like I've never eaten nearly enough to get flavor fatigue. I'm usually very excited by my last bite. So, like, what is the actual experience other than just being like, ugh, I'm tired?
Well, I mean, it's that, fatigue does set in, but like with the flavor fatigue, it's kind of like your body, I guess it's kind of like a gag reflex, or, if you ever did that buffet or the Thanksgiving meal and you took that one more bite, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. You to counteract it, to get your mind onto a different flavor, you use your flavor changer.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, I got something new, refreshing in my system. Let's go back to eating this other stuff.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like a battle. A lot of people are like, oh, we're weekend warriors or buffet warriors with this, but there's a lot of I feel there's a lot of mental training I've been working on, mental stuff to deal with the flavor, forcing your body to take the capacity, really just pushing my limits. And a lot of it's mental. Plus, right. Taking in the crowd, the noise, the MC, all that stuff kind of gets there into your head, and you really got to keep it clear, because you have to tell yourself to eat and swallow and, consume more food than you ever want to.
Right.
So.
I do want to ask about, because you mentioned that your mentor was at the table, and
yes.
Especially because we haven't had you on the show before, I think it is definitely worth talking about. Laurel, the real deal, Marie Melee, who came in 9th with 12 Porkroll sandwiches, where if we put the two of you next to each other at a table, or just like in a room, we wouldn't, I don't think anyone in the room would be like, those two people right. would have a really, really close relationship together, and that the woman would get the guy into competitive eating. So can you talk a little bit about that, about your relationship with Laurel, and how she kind of brought you into this wacky world?
Oh, definitely. 10 years now, give or take. I was in the cable company paying my cable bill, and there was this little, or not little old lady, but there was a lady in front of me. Laurel's not a large woman. She's a personal trainer and stuff, and she's going on about how she's qualified to go back to Coney Island to eat these hot dogs, and she could eat into the mid-teens, high teens. And I guess I chuckled or whatever, and she turned around and she called me out. She was like, you need to come out and practice with me, and because I could eat more hot dogs than you. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but I guess it's possible. So I kind of laughed it off, and I ran into her a couple more times in town because we don't live far from each other. And I finally started going to practice with Laurel at the gym where she was a personal trainer. And my first time out, I think I ate 18 hot dogs and buns, and I became her sparring partner for years. She would push, she's like, oh, I need you to push me to, so I could do better for 4th of July. So I need, a sparring partner per se. And I'm like, okay. So she's like, well, I want to eat 14 hot dogs a day. I'm like, well, I want to eat 15. And she's like, well, what happens if I eat 15? I said, well, I'll eat 16. And she's like, this isn't fair. You need to push yourself and try to qualify. And I'm like, I don't think that's even possible. These guys are eating 40 and 50 hot dogs. And, I have a racing background. So the first, second place is the first loser.
Right.
So, but she finally, talked me into trying to go to qualify, and I went to Pocono Raceway down the street from my house, and I showed up and I ate 17 hot dogs my first time out, and I took second, and then actually Carmen lost to me because it was, I think, his first qualifier.
Oh,
also.
he ate 13 or 14.
Wow, that's a real origin story. That's a whole.
I didn't realize you were there. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was there. So, and that got me pumped because I was watching episode 95, and Ronnie said, when you come out, and George is announcing you, or Mike yourself, the MCs put some effort into our announcements, our introductions for us coming on stage, and once the first time that happened, man, I was hooked. I'm I want to go try to qualify again.
Right.
And I really, from there, like walking off the stage that day, Badlands Booker's like, yo, you need to change up your technique. You need to do this and that. And he started giving me pointers right from the get-go.
Of course.
I put up a decent number, I guess, high teens for my first showing. But everybody, just really just got behind me and started pushing me to, train harder, try to qualify more. And with Laurel, she was happy because she's like, okay, you're here trying to qualify. You're doing it. Let's work harder. And, we have hot dog season every year now. And we practice 3 months out of the year. We see each other once, twice a week. And just really push each other to, do better for, our qualifiers and for the finals. If we both make it to Coney Island, it's really just, it's a great relationship I have with her because it's fun. And if you ever get to meet her, you would, her personality is just so uplifting and, just she's really out there to go get it. And when it comes to the eating part of it, she's so passionate about it. And it's just so much fun for her because, she literally just does it for fun. Because, she's a great competitive eater, but it's not about the money. It's not about the fame, or the social media or nothing. It's just for her to get out and see the other eaters and to be able to compete. And, it's just great to see that in somebody. And, she got me hooked on it just to be able to come out and push myself. And once I got that taste of the stage and the lights and the crowd, now it's like, okay, I'm trying to push myself. So like last year, you guys rock. I won, Up and Rising Star 2018.
That was all
and
you. That was not us. That was the
So,
fans.
I know it's the fans, but you guys had the award to present it to me. So, I think it was awesome. And, I feel that I worked hard for it, and I'm very excited that I won it. And thank you to the fans out there. It's excited, it's great to be here today to be able to thank you guys about that. And to debut at 18th in the world, and then now I'm up to 12th in the world. I just, my goal is just to keep chugging along, get into the top 10 and see where it goes.
Well, George, obviously you mentioned the huge moment, I assume, in your life of winning a Finky Award. But it was obviously well deserved. 2018 and into 2019, you've done like a little bit of everything. We've actually been thank you to the Brooklyn Fire Department or local police. Either way, thank you very much for keeping someone safe tonight. So you've done a little bit of everything. We could probably do this for like hours upon hours. So my question mostly to you that I'll kick this whole thing off with is, you get started with your first taste of the limelight. You end with a Finky Award in 2019. What in between then made you really go like, oh, I'm here? Like, I'm not Laurel's friend. I'm not a guy who can't really make it here. Like, I'm somebody who sort of belongs here on the circuit. Either like last year, this year. Like, when does that come?
I think it kind of set in competing against, Carmen and Jeff and Joey, even before the 4th of July, because I had my first contest. It was Hostess Don't Eats, and I think I might have took 4th place. Could be 5th. I'm not quite sure, with like 139 or 132 donates. And, I'm surpassing other ranked eaters, at the table. Like, I'm eating more than them, and I'm not ranked. I'm just, some guy that signed the contract because, I'm trying to, qualify to go to Coney. And, and then I went out to Strawberry Shortcake, and I'm pretty sure I took 4th place there with like 12 pounds, which I still know it's like half of what Carmen ate. But it's still 12 pounds of Strawberry Shortcake in 8 minutes or whatever. And, I'm like, awesome. And then when I did qualify to go to Coney, that was a big moment of, everybody that was at my qualifier that didn't qualify, that been to Coney before. And it's like, okay, so like, I showed up, I ate 30 hot dogs and buns, I'm doing this, I'm moving on. And, it went pretty quick. Is this all happened in a few weeks of each other, because when it comes to competition, I'll compete Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if I have to, and if I could get there. And so I think the biggest thing is just after 4th of July, rolling into going, into the rest of the, the late summer, fall competitions, they brought the rankings out of for Major League Eating, and I debuted at 18th in the world. They ranked the top 20 or the top 50. So to be in the top 20, it's like, did they figure this out right? Like, am I,
Did they not carry the two?
No, they're infallible.
Yeah, like,
everybody knows this.
Yeah, am I where I'm supposed to be? But I mean, the last 2 years for to go to Coney Island, I've qualified, 4th in the world, and then I lost 4th. I got bumped down to 5th this past season by a half a hot dog. So I mean, I'm still qualifying and putting up big numbers to get there. So I think that's that got in my head, like, hey, I'm 12th in the world this year. I need to work hard. But like competition at all of our events, like there's stacked events,
right,
that if there's 14 people at an event, there could be the top 12 out of the 14 there this year, which has happened. It's really just mind blowing how many eaters are really traveling and getting to these competitions and putting up numbers, and it's so close, with our rankings. Like, I know it's not overall so close, like Joey and Jeff, like, even like Jeff and Joey, like last weekend, it's 20 some sandwiches, difference, which is unbelievable. But, normally they're much closer to each other, and then it starts to drop off after that. But like the next 5 people were kind of close, similar, so like Strawberry Shortcake this year, I think there was from 3rd to 7th, we're about a pound away from each other, pound and a quarter difference in 5 positions, which theoretically could be a mishandful of debris on the floor, or
especially in a contest like that. Yeah.
Yes, lots of debris at the Strawberry Shortcake. But even like going to the last not the last competition, but another competition is coming up soon. We have poutine in Canada. Last year I finished 5th place at half a pound off of Matt Stoney. So I'm like, if I ate another bowl, I could have tied with Matt Stoney, the second. Well, he used to be second, 3rd ranked eater in the world.
Right. And a
but
great
it's Matt
poutine
Stoney,
eater.
like,
right.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm right behind him by a half a pound. Like, so I'm like, I'm here. Like, I could do this, and I just have to keep, fighting at it and training and work on my flavor fatigue. Because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you eat 10 pounds of something, it just.
Well, you're a man.
You get a little tired.
Yeah. You're a man of fine taste. Everybody knows this about you.
But George, you rattled off a ton of different contests, and that's one of my favorite things about you, though. And I've said it in introductions with you before, is that if I remember correctly, maybe if I'm preparing for something that's happening this weekend, is in 2 years you've been to 2 countries, eaten in 11 states, and eaten in 22 contests. And those are very large numbers when it comes to the competitive eating circuit.
Does the 11 consider the province of Ontario, or is that just American states?
So I went with just American states.
I knew you would. I knew you'd look into that. Okay,
2 countries, though. 2 countries.
Yeah.
But you have been really, a road warrior on the circuit. And I guess, like, is there what, it's kind of similar to what, James, you were kind of alluding to before, but is there, not only when did you realize, not just when you realized, like, hey, like, I'm a legitimate competitive eater, but what really about competitive eating bit you with the bug that you were willing to travel from Pennsylvania to fly into Minneapolis and drive 2.5, 3 hours, depending on how fast you're going, to Tower, Minnesota, to all these different places.
Also, where's Prior Lake, Minnesota? That one can't be close.
That I don't even know. I wasn't even at that one, but you've been to a lot of places, so what really bit you with the bug to travel? Because there's some eaters that just go local, but you'll go anywhere, it seems.
Yeah, it's just the eaters. We're lawyers, engineers, blue collar workers, doctors, school teachers, and we get together. We all have a common thing, and it's, we're competing for, 6 to 12 minutes out of the weekend. So we're not friends, we're competitors.
Sure.
But for the rest of the weekend, we're friends. We're colleagues. We communicate. We go to, breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. We go to the bar, have some drinks, and it's just the people involved with competitive eating. The fans, number one, are awesome. When you walk into into a stadium or into a fair, and they notice that you're there to eat for the weekend, is just unbelievable. Like, I mean, I'm becoming not really a media whore, but I do try to do all the media I could do, because I'm enjoying it. I'm trying to build my brand. So once again, thanks for having me on. Like, share, and subscribe.
Actually, show that hat a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Oh, my hashtag the smorgasbord.
I'm loving that.
So, but we, it's just, it's a little bit of everything, overall, because, I could be, I'm in Indianapolis, Indianapolis. We're out in Minnesota. I did the Ribs media, and later that afternoon, we're at our Airbnb, and I'm out getting something out of the car, and this, the family's out walking their dog, and hey, I saw you this morning on TV. You're here for the rib eating contest. And I'm like, what? Like, you guys,
That's awesome.
Is at first, yeah, it's just, it catches you off guard. Or, I'm walking in the city with Crazy Legs last week, and they're like, hey, you're that hot dog guy,
Shut
I mean,
up.
it just,
yeah.
they just call you out in the city. Like, they weren't talking to me last week. It was Crazy Legs, but or like, we're in New York City with Badlands Booker, and
Which
like,
is
2
an
o'clock in the
impossible
morning.
task, yeah.
Oh yeah, and like they're screaming out his name at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm like, what? Like, this is just, it's I call it my 15 minutes of fame. Out there eating, and it's all part of it. It's the opportunity to be on your show today to talk about the last 2 years of my life. Just killing it at eating, and I'm at a local grocery store today, food shopping. And, some people that I know from local are like, hey, what are you eating this weekend? And it's like, oh, this is what we're going to go eat. And it's like, what? Tamales? It's like, yeah, we're going to go eat some tamales. Well, what'd you eat last weekend? It's like, oh,
Porkroll.
Porkroll.
Or Taylor ham, depending on who you ask.
Well, exactly. They correct me. It's not porkroll, it's Taylor ham. I'm like, no, it's porkroll. It's Case's porkroll. That's what the T-shirt says. So, but yeah, it's just, you just get hooked on it. It's part of that adrenaline, I guess, or that, that happy spot in your brain that releases the happy stuff, I guess. I don't know. I mean, people recognizing you for something. I'm a pretty big guy. People recognize me anyway, because I'm a small town in the mountains. It's like, hey, I know you from somewhere. And it's like, oh yeah, you probably do. But now it's, being able to get out there and, eat. I love to eat. I'm not a small guy. I'm 100% about food, good food, and there's nothing better to be able to travel and see the country or countries, and partake in their local dish, as a competitor, but then also be able to go out with the locals and my friends and have a couple beers or some drinks and dinner afterwards, or breakfast the next day or whatever, and just be able to see what's going on. So it's a great way to see the country and have fun with it.
Well, so over the last, now I guess it's maybe year plus, Fink Beats the Stomach. Well, I was going to say, Fink Beats the Stomach has focused on, or we've thought about and mentioned sort of small town contests more and more.
Absolutely.
So, and this sort of struck this question when you were talking about someone in New York City, like tapping you on the shoulder or screaming out for Crazy Legs, and then someone walking their dog in Prior Lake, Minnesota. Like, do you feel a difference between like a city and a small town contest? And is there, I mean, I don't want to make you choose between the two. Obviously you love all of it, but like, what's the experience? Is it different? Is it sort of all similar once, people are people?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much similar, because we're all there to do something. Like, I mean, if it's, say, pepperoni rolls in Virginia, that's a small event to, the porkroll eating contest last weekend. The only big thing would be Coney Island is kind of like its own own thing. I would say it's the Super Bowl of competitive eating for us, for Major League Eating.
Or WrestleMania, Mike would probably say.
That's what I would say.
Well, yeah, WrestleMania. It's definitely huge, and you know, to be able to go to those events and see those people and the intensity of it is unbelievable. But to be able to go and compete in it is like next level, hands down, on the bucket list. It's checked off now twice.
Right.
You know, I hope I can make it back again, you know, for 2020, because it's going to be, you know, a tough qualifying, I think, because every year it just gets harder because of the numbers that everyone's putting up. But Joel Hansen, you guys mentioned him. He's a great eater. One of my friends. I really enjoy traveling and doing food challenges with him and checking out his videos and all that. But he commented on, he was in Coney Island last year, and he said it's hands down one of the most intense contests he's ever seen, because for 10 minutes everybody's eating.
Right.
Like some of our contests, not everyone's eating for 10 minutes. Like you're there, you know, like you said, like it might not be a ranked eater, or it might just be an average guy that walked on, but there's someone's distracted or not 110% for the full time. Coney Island, it is everyone's 110%, if not more, for their 10 minutes, trying to get, you know, maxed out, you know, with the largest, you know, numbers they could put in at the time, because it is the WrestleMania or, you know, Super Bowl. So but everything else, it's pretty much, you know, the same, but everyone's a little different, you know. Looking forward to, you know, poutine, because that's like kind of, you know, in Times Square, but it's in
Dundas Square.
Yeah, exactly.
And Lord knows Canada is running sports this year. Bianca, the Raptors. I was actually with a Canadian last week talking about how, I mean, Ontario specifically right now is just feeling themselves. So Darian Thomas, which of course was mentioned when I spoke to this person about Canadian sports.
Yeah.
But for real, I mean, this is a big time for Canada, and Lord knows they could even build it even higher with maybe a Darian Thomas upset. I'm not going to say for sure, but you know, it'd be exciting.
Joel Hansen, also a Canadian.
Joel Hansen, another
from Ontario, but
yeah, definitely. I mean, Joel Hansen and you know, Darian Thomas, you know, the cheese curd, he is really putting up some crazy numbers this year overall.
And he's a sweetheart.
I mean, I think he is. He's young, and he's just driven 100% to come out and eat and, you know, compete with the big boys. Like, I mean, he's really came a long way in the last year.
And he'll eventually be old enough to drink in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Yes.
He's still working on it, though.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's almost there.
All of his training.
Yeah, he's 20. I think he's 20 now.
Okay, good for him.
Yeah.
But George, I did want to ask you, because again, we talk about all the different places that you've been in the past 2 years or so. Is there any place that really stands out as something that was really surprising for you? Because obviously, like, you go, Lupita.
It's Lupita.
Oh, hi, Lupita.
Now we really just got famous on this.
Yeah.
On this podcast.
Dog content plays very well on YouTube, apparently.
Oh, Lupita 2017 on Instagram.
Should I change your lower third to include Lupita?
No, we're good.
No, but I am curious to hear, because obviously I would assume someone who is in Pennsylvania, like, you go to somewhere like Philly, you go somewhere like New York, you kind of know what the deal is, whether it's at an eating contest or not. Is there any place that you've gone through competitive eating that really surprised you in what the place was like, whether it was, I don't know, like bigger than you thought, or cooler than you thought, more interesting than you thought? Because you've been to some unique places if I look at your competitive eating resume.
Definitely. I mean, I think everywhere I've gone so far, since it's the first time going, it's an experience in itself. I want to say I'm kind of like a little kid. I get giddy, butterflies in the stomach, and I just want to check it out. Like, last year I went to Canada, first time ever, going to Canada.
Nice.
And it was it was awesome. What a great experience. Just a clean place to go. The contest was awesome. The sponsors were awesome. The nightlife was great. It was weird. I mean, just because it's like, oh, it's a new place, but like, is it really going to be, I was expecting it to be a lot different than
right.
the U.S., but really, really not. It's kind of like, okay, there's a couple of differences, but
It's just more coins. That's the only difference.
And the metric system.
Yes, the metric system.
You don't know how
The
fast
steam on
anything is, and you have to just put
Exactly.
coins and stuff. That's like really the only difference.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that was a great question, Mike. I mean, going to Gyoza's was awesome. That was an experience like, when I was a kid. I'm originally from California, but it's been years, and be able to go and check out the city and go into little, Tokyo right? Little Tokyo,
yeah.
Yeah, and just to experience that and the nightlife afterwards with the after parties and just the people, it's just awesome. It's just every place I go is an experience. So now I'm getting around to going back to some of the contests for the second time this year. So I'm really looking forward to going back to poutine again. I'm going to say it. He's not going to get. Oh, he's giggling now. Okay.
No,
James, every time I say it, it's like you giggle.
I'm trying to hold back.
It was like gyoza and poutine. We have to travel.
And this is the year of
poutine.
Canada.
Sure.
Like, I mean, excluding Justin
And
Trudeau.
yet we went to gyoza and poutine.
Yeah. But like, I'm just with Bianca, who just crushed it. I've been very pro Canada recently. Again,
All right.
despite Justin.
Well, I got room in the car if you guys,
That's a road trip movie I would
Friday
watch
morning.
the shit out of.
Yeah.
The
So,
two of us together.
Us, George.
But it just like every town's an experience, and like to be able to go back to say Manitowoc for the Strawberry Festival, and for the second year in a row to be able to compete for the strawberry shortcake and stuff, and people are coming up to you and they recognize you from the year before, and the sponsors come up to you and thank you for coming back, and everything. It's just it's really just a neat experience overall. It's I know I'm not Joey Chestnut rolling into town and people stopping and asking for my autograph, but this weekend I signed a couple autographs at the Porkroll, which was really cool to have a kid. Oh, excuse me, can I get your autograph? Well, sure, yeah, thanks for asking. So it's just I guess I could just ramble about all this, but it's just a great experience overall.
Well, and maybe we get you out on this, because I don't know if we have we may have be near our hour limit because we're not running our timer, but you've obviously done so much. We've been so happy to hear about everything you've done to date in the last couple of years, and it's been like sort of as far as we're concerned, a very quick rise. What haven't you done, or what are you looking to do next? That's like, here's the next spot that I really want to get to, whether it's a place, a contest, a placing in a contest, media, or what? Like, what are you like, this is the next thing I have to do? Maybe it's Lupita 2020. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. Like I said, I would like to get to the top 10. This year, I'd like to put up some crazy numbers for Nathan's overall. Like, I mean, last year I was talking about I wanted to get into the 50s. My boy Darren got there. That's kind of been a goal in the back of my head to, get 50 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes so I could be in the top 10 in the world that's ever done it.
Yep.
So I think this winter I'm going to put a little extra time and effort into my training and my practicing for hot dog season and see where I can get to, because, I personally think, we have rookies coming in qualifying in the low 30s, and that's usually where I qualify. So for 2020, I think I really need to be into the 40s, or if not, 50, and that, that's where I really want to just push myself to get to that next level for Nathan's, and then that will just trickle down and help me with all the other competitions. Because if I could work on my technique and capacity for hot dogs, which that's been my go-to for the last, almost 10 years of eating, everything else just kind of falls into place, I think.
And I guess, George,
if that makes sense.
I know it does, and I want to ask you kind of a little bit more of a direct, blunt question, and it's maybe because we've been hitting. We've been drinking rum this whole time.
Yeah. Also, thank you to Gosling's rum. So am I too easy on George Chiger? Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. But I do want to ask, and I'm almost afraid. Oh, please. I'm almost afraid of the answer. But you talked a lot about you mentioned you're going through the contest for the first time, and I
Mhm.
don't know if it's either been on the air, off the air, a little bit of both, where James and I, we've been doing the show for maybe 5 years or so now. I don't even know at this point, but
Higher.
maybe 6, I don't know. But we've seen different people kind of rise and fall in terms of their involvement in the sport of
Yeah.
competitive eating. And I feel like
They
one
leave
of those,
us behind.
yeah, and here we are still in the loft. Here we are. But no, I think that there's definitely something to be said about the first time you go through it, and there you can justify the extra flight and the hotel and all that sort of stuff, especially if you're not getting first, second, third. Even third sometimes isn't enough to cover what you guys are going through. So for you, I guess now that you're coming into your third year as a professional, maybe the second time you're going through some of these contests, what really does keep you motivated and going forward? Or do you see kind of an expiration date, which I hope not, on your competitive eating career?
But this is a hard eating question.
We gotta ask, we gotta know.
No, it's I feel I have like a year and a half left of my contract with Major League Eating. So in the next year and a half, I think I could really push myself and see if I could get to the numbers I want to get to, and try my best. And I think I want to get to the top 10 overall. It would be awesome to be the top 5, but at least my short-term goal is to get in the top 10. I have a year and a half left in my contract with Major League Eating, and I'm sure as the sport is progressing, which you guys have seen that in the last 5 years. If you haven't, you've been drinking too much on the show. But,
both can be true. So
yes, but I mean, hands down, the sport's growing. I want to be a part of that. So with the next year and a half, like my goal is to really step up, my qualifying numbers for Nathan's, my overall numbers for Nathan's, and and that will just trickle back into the rest of the events, the competitions, to better myself, and then to touch on your you were saying that the short-term rise of competitive eaters in the fall. I think you get somebody that comes out and tries it, and then they're good at something, but they might try something else, or the things not necessarily you have to do to yourself, but the time and effort you have to put into the traveling, the training, the practice, might not be for everybody. Because hot dog season, it's 3 months. I consumed 400 plus hot dogs this year. Last year was 600 plus hot dogs. I'm always looking for sponsors. Cash money's good. Third party sponsors to help offset this, because I spend a lot of my own money for traveling, and also my training, my food, and it's food's not cheap, and to be able to maintain a larger stomach than average, you got to put some food in there. And it's just, it costs money. So it could be, it's not, the traveling part might get to people, the food expense might get to people. It might be expensive, both of the overall, the biggest parts of this might get to some people saying, hey, I really can't be doing this. I have a family, I have other prior obligations. I can't get off of work. There are some competitions that are midweek or Friday, and they just can't travel. So I'm very fortunate with my summer hours at work, allow me to travel, have long weekends. I'm a single guy. I got my dog, and as long as she's fed, I'm happy.
Right.
And I don't have to worry about the child support or the kids, or back to school clothes, or daycare or whatever.
Sure.
So I go without some things for to be able to pick up my travel expenses and everything, and I just hope that I can finish in the money and to offset my expenses.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know if I really got to where we
No,
I
you
might
did.
have walked around that whole question. So,
But I guess, I do want to ask you, George, because as we're closing out 2019 and looking forward to 2020.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. I know I told you like 20 minutes ago we were gonna get you out on this question. It's because that's such a great subject.
Like, I guess in like one sentence.
2 is fine.
No, but like, you know, like if you want to, if we're looking back, because the 2019 competitive eating season is almost over. There's only a handful of contests left. I know you're competing this upcoming weekend, but very quickly, 2019 will be done. We'll be starting back on 2020 and going into 2020 in like kind of looking at it in a very singular fashion. What does success look like for you? Like, what is really the pinnacle for 2020 as you look into it? Doesn't have to actually be one sentence. You don't have to.
No,
but,
I know.
know.
I'm just no. Overall, like, I mean, 2020, it's going to be bigger and better than 2019. Like, I mean, I did good this year, but the competition is just so much like another step up from 2018. Like 2018, it was easy for me to, I feel, to go out and compete and, you know, end up where I was at. 2019, I was struggling a little bit all season. I hope to finish strong, but I tell you what, I want 2020 to be easier for me than 2018, and I just want to put up big numbers and just kill it. You know, I mean, just crush some of my personal bests, and hopefully I could crush some other records on my way up.
Absolutely.
Next year.
Well, I mean, I have 1,000 more questions. I have so many more things I want to talk to George.
George, we have to have you back.
And that's not a bit. Like, I don't pull that or really have questions for anyone about competitive eating. So I do mean that sincerely. But because again we haven't put the timer on and we've kept George all night, and Lupita I'm sure needs a walk, as does our lovely Einstein. I won't ask them, but I will say that I would really love to have you, George, on again. You know, maybe before 2019's over, maybe in 2020, whenever you're ready. But as we ask everyone, where can people find you? Where do you want people to look for you? What's next for you? And where should we send everybody who's a fan of George Chiger after this interview?
I tell you what, like, I know you guys had G Chiger for Twitter. I think G Chiger is also my Facebook page. I do a lot of live streaming on my Facebook page. I'm also on, I have a YouTube channel. I got like one video there. I'm trying to build that. I'm not the greatest with editing. I have tons of footage from the last 2 years. So once that starts to flow, I hope my page takes off. But yeah, so Twitter, Instagram, at Chiger, hashtag the smorgasbord. You know, on if you pretty much look for George Chiger or the smorgasbord, you'll find me on one of those platforms out there that someone's checking out. So,
and you mentioned
once again, go ahead.
So you mentioned this weekend. Are you going to be live streaming from Tamales? You said this weekend.
We will definitely try.
Lupita's excited.
Lupita loves tamales.
She is. She loves the tamales. Her being all Spanish and stuff. So, the overall, I'm going to try to stream from Tamales. I try to stream from everywhere. Porkroll, unfortunately, I wasn't able to. Got some pictures out there and stuff, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I've never been there. Hopefully, they have the cell service and allowing us to get it out. I mean, sometimes I can't do it because of the cell service, or unfortunately, if there's too many people at the event,
right. Great
there's
problem
a
to have.
data issue. Yes, 100%. So, and then, Canada next month. I'm looking forward to that. So it's going to be a great ending to 2019, and I hope it's strong for myself and other competitive eaters. And 2020, like you guys said, I really just want to put up big numbers next year and just do better for myself and the sport.
Absolutely. So GC Chiger or G Chiger George Chiger, the Smorgasbord. Check him out.
Catch him in the
Cross-platform.
streets in PA, apparently.
Or catch him in the streets all across
Yeah,
this country.
if you're in front of George Chiger online, you could talk to him anytime. Apparently, is what we learned about this episode.
Absolutely.
Which is not surprising, given what just an absolute lovely guy you are to chat with, both on and off mic. So I just had another blast with Chiger.
And I will say, George, I can't think of a better competitive eater on Facebook than you.
Wow.
You have the best Facebook game, I feel like, in competitive eating. You do a great job live streaming, checking into different restaurants, and so on. So definitely worth the follow on Facebook. Way better than our Facebook game.
I have not been on the Fotch book in a very long time. George, I'm sure you're crushing it.
Yes.
And I appreciate you for that.
I'm trying. Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Please,
Thank
come
you
on.
guys.
Don't be nice to us,
No,
please. This is ridiculous.
We cannot thank you enough for your time.
We're just like, hey, George, we love you so much, but if you're nice to us for 1
Please
second.
stop. Please stop. But
too funny.
we want to let George go home, so let's bring this whole thing home. Let's land the plane.
Park the old car here.
We want you guys to reach out to us to let us know, of course, how great you thought that George was
And
on
how
this show.
terrible we were.
And how
on top
terrible
of
we
that.
were. He carried us through this whole episode. The best way to do that is, of course, to go to twitter.com/FBTSpod. That's on Instagram as well. But, of course, if 280 characters just aren't enough.
And they should be, Mike.
It really should be. It's a lot of characters. But if you want to send us a longer message, complain a little bit more, you should have asked George this, that, and the other. Bring them on, here, that, and the other. You can send us an email.
Mm-hmm.
It's an electronic snail mail.
Yep.
And you can do that, of course, by sending it to
thinkbeatsthestomach@gmail.com.
And, James, we talked about the social media platform before.
And you know I don't know it.
You've gotten yourself off of it, so you're almost not even equipped to talk about it.
100%.
But I know you know from your many years of putting it in that
100%.
sometimes, someone like George, a top-ranked competitive eater, might put some still frames of him in competition.
Pics.
And maybe some of those still frames might be strung together to see the movement of everything he's got going on.
A moving picture or a vid.
And honestly, he mentioned how you're going, a lot of the local news stations, maybe some articles or some videos, all these people are talking about him. So we want to connect from Facebook to somewhere else.
Yeah, it's when the text gets blue with an underline of it. That's a link.
Oh, wow. But if
Yeah.
only there was one social media outlet that strung it all together.
Yeah. So it's new. It's hot right now, which is why Chiger's on it. And that's also facebook.com/FinkBeatsTheStomach. Head there for vids, pics, and links. And you know what? Before you do that, make sure it's okay with your parents if you can go on the internet.
Especially if you're Darian Thomas.
If you're Darian Thomas and you're 18 or 17 or 16 years old, or if you're Amelia or Arthur, you have to ask your parents if it's okay to use the internet before you do. But once you're there and once your parents give the A-OK, just go on there and go wild.
Well, what an episode.
It was a blast. Chiger,
Yeah, it really
it's so
was.
good to chat with you, man. We miss you.
Oh, definitely, guys. You guys are awesome.
Well, James, you can always come out to Texas this weekend.
Not gonna happen.
Are you tipping the hat to it?
The old, too big for me. I can't take Texas this weekend. Dallas is just too much.
Well, I will be in Dallas this weekend. I'm honored to share the stage with Mr. George Chiger this weekend for the Tamale Eating Championship. Although, as I said, the competitive eating calendar is definitely coming to an end. There's definitely some fun competitions along the way, and we hope all of you listeners and viewers join us. And George, again, we really thank you again for taking the time to chat with us, especially since we're way over time for
going
what.
overtime.
So I really apologize for that, but we really thank you for your time. And of course, to all the listeners and the viewers of Fink Beats the Stomach, we want to thank you for listening to this episode again of Fink Beats the Stomach.
Good night, George.
Good night, guys.